Here we go. Make sure everything's squared away. You said you're going to Menards later?
Yep.
With a purpose?
Yeah.
Or just going in there?
No, going to buy stuff for the house.
Yeah. How long is that project going to take, you think?
Well, my idea was not to do anything.
Yeah.
But the way it's turning out looks like a couple months.
Oh. Well, it'll be fun. Always an adventure.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have Marvin Van Oosten in the studio today. Thanks for coming in, Dad.
Well, you're more than welcome.
I think it's important to get your story on camera here, and because your story is such a large part of mine. So once again, I appreciate you coming in and talking about where I came from.
Yeah.
So you enlisted in the Marine Corps, was it, you said 7th of December?
7th of December, 1965.
Now, and was Vietnam active?
Yes.
How long had it been active by then?
Oh, I think Vietnam started in 63, actually.
Yeah, depending on, right?
Yeah, with advisors, but the big build-up started in mid-65.
Okay. Well, we're going to jump right into it. Take me all the way back. What was your first inspiration when you wanted to join or knew that you wanted to join the military?
My first inspiration, of course, was Uncle Paul was in the Marine Corps and was on Saipan and Iwo Jima. And I always looked up to him, and my closest friend and I were both working at Solom Machine in Rockford as welders. We welded hot asphalt transport trailers together. And one day on a Friday afternoon, we decided that we were going to join the Marine Corps. And we asked the foreman for a half a day off to go talk to the recruiter, and he said that he wouldn't give two good welders time off to lose them to the military. And so we said, well, we quit. And we gave our tools and stuff away to different people that were working there, and we drove up to the post office in Rockford, and the Marine Corps and recruiting station was in the post office, and we went stood out in the hallway of the Marine Corps recruiter's office, and he was talking to a lady and a young man that was, I suppose, looking to enlist, and he asked us what we needed, and we said we wanted to join.
Had you had any conversations with anybody? Like, that seems like such a drastic, were you following the Vietnam conflict at that time? Or, it's just such a bizarre, just one day, fuck it, we're going to the Marine Corps, right?
Not really. We didn't, not really. We talked to a friend of ours, Brad Try, who had been in the Marine Corps. And other than that, no, I never brought it up to, my folks didn't know that I was going to do it, and didn't know until after I did it.
How'd that go over? Grandma
Fran was washing dishes in the kitchen, and I walked in and threw the recruiter's card on the table, and she looked at me and looked at it, and she said, "You didn't?" And I said, "Yeah, I did." And I'm leaving Monday, and this was Friday.
Oh, shit.
And she just shrugged her shoulders and went with the flow.
Yeah, that was her, right? Pretty stoic
Yeah.
At all times. Uncle Paul was a big influence, right?
Yeah.
And how much interaction did you have with him growing up? Like, was he he was the main inspiration?
Oh, no, because his brother Marvin and his brother Harvey were both in the military during World War II, and along with Paul. And my dad had to stay home and farm, but the family was close. We were always together on weekends, and so I was around the military people a lot. And to say that had a real influence on me, maybe subconsciously, because I didn't walk around thinking about the Marine Corps or thinking about the military when I was younger. But that probably influenced me a lot.
Was Uncle Paul? I mean, did he tell a lot of stories? Would he answer your?
Not a lot of combat-related stories. He was proud to have been in the Marine Corps, but he didn't tell a lot of military stories as far as the combat and stuff. But you could definitely tell he was. He would let you know immediately he was a Marine.
Yeah. I think we're not hard to spot.
No. His favorite saying was, "Shake the hand that shook the world."
He was a big guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a large man. Well, so you went to the recruiting office, quit your job, went to the recruiting office. We're in boot camp 3 days later.
Basically,
for the most part.
Yeah, we reported Monday to the recruiting center in Chicago. Stayed overnight, got a physical the next day, and was on a plane that night to San Diego.
So was there at any point, because having, kind of been through it myself, right? Like, was there any point when during that process where you were like, what have I done?
No.
You were pretty confident, pretty sure.
Yeah, I knew that's what I wanted to do. And even, when we went to get our physical, of course, they had us all lined up in our skivvies, and the recruiters went down the line because there were draftees intermixed with us, and they said all Marines take one step backwards, and then they went down the line and picked about every third person and said, you take one step backwards, you're now a Marine.
No shit.
Yeah, and there was
for the draftees, right?
For the draftees, yeah, and there were obviously a number of them were upset to the fact that they were tearing up and crying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to put yourself in their shoes, a little bit and think, man, not only do I not want to be here to begin with.
That's, I'm sure, was going through their head.
Right. And then
they didn't want to be there, period. And then somebody's telling them they're going to the Marine Corps, which was something they definitely thought they didn't want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would have been a tough pill to swallow. I could imagine that being rough. Did they? So, did you know at the time? And I know this may sound like a ridiculous question, but was it an itch to go to the Marine Corps, or were you enticed by the conflict in Vietnam? As a young man, right, enlisting and volunteering during an act of conflict, like, did you know you were going to go?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everybody, 99% of the people that went in the Marine Corps then ended up in Vietnam. And most of them, shortly after they went to boot camp, they knew they were going to go. Was that a desire? Did I want to go to Vietnam? I don't think that wasn't crossing my mind. I wanted to change I felt I wanted to do something different than get up, go to work in the morning, work at the gas station, and run around and drink beer at night. That's all I was doing.
You
So
just had an itch, right?
yeah, so I just wanted to change, and the military fit the bill.
Talk me through that first day, boots on the ground in Vietnam. How did you get there?
In Vietnam?
Yeah, in Vietnam. I know you went to Okinawa. Like I'm sure they flew.
I went on ship.
Okay.
Yeah, we left. I'd say it was probably the 6th of July because we got a 4th of July Liberty, and when I returned from Liberty that Sunday evening, people were scurrying around, throwing away like their barracks cover, uniform, dress uniform stuff, and everybody was, we're leaving tomorrow. Pack your shit and let's go, And so we got everything in the duffel bags, and the next morning we got on the USNS General Gordon in San Diego Bay and took a month's trip to Vietnam.
What were some of the conversations? How long did it take? How long did that trip?
A month.
A month, right?
Yeah. Your excitement for the day was go up on deck, try to find a place to nap, and run from side to side whenever they'd see flying fish or porpoise.
Yeah, ship sucks.
Yeah.
Ship sucks.
Yeah.
It's awful. Yeah, it's just not fun.
It was an old troop transport, the USNS. We called it the Garbage Boat Gordon. And there were a battalion of Army MPs on it, and there were 500 Marines, and we were all back in the fantail.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's prime real estate.
yeah, every day they'd be out sunbathing. Every day that it was possible, and we would be twice a day back on the fantail exercising.
What were some of the conversations, if you remember, because there's got to be just an immense amount of anticipation, and that's a long time, right? And it's it's not like you have any repeat offenders. It's the first time for everybody, for the most part, right?
For the most part, yeah.
So has to be tons of conversations of like what it's going to be like, or what do we think is going to.
We had no idea. I mean, the Army was a battalion. They'd been together. We were a replacement group. So you had a whole mix of different MOSs, different people with different jobs. And we had no idea other than we were in the Marine Corps.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was in the utilities. I had no idea what I was going to do.
Well, because you had to go through some sort of, you had your military occupational specialty, or MOS school.
Right.
Right? And so you knew what you were going to be doing, or at least had this is my job. Right?
Right. But your first job in the Marine Corps is a rifleman. We spent longer at AIT and infantry training than we did in Schools Battalion. I went to Camp Lejeune for water supply school. And but that's all I could think of, or I anticipated that I was going to be a water purification, run a water purification plant, or do something like that. And say we really didn't have any idea of what we would be assigned to doing.
What was your training like? I can remember having a conversation with you a long time ago, and we were arguing, and not arguing is a wrong word. Like I was concerned, and I think it was for Dane's first deployment. And I was concerned about his well-being and his safety or his level of training, right? Just general concern as an older brother. And I can remember you finally kind of shut me up when you're like, you know how much training I got before I went to Vietnam was 2 weeks jungle training in California. Was that? Am I remembering that correctly?
That's correct.
Well, what would they? I mean, Southern California is not exactly triple canopy jungle.
No, but that's where you're familiar with it. You went to boot camp, and then you went to, we called it ITR. They call it AIT or whatever now. Your regimental infantry training is
right.
what we went through, and that lasted, at that time was 6 or 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And then you went to Schools Battalion, whatever your MOS was. But then immediately out of Schools Battalion, I was sent back to Pendleton to go to Vietnam. And you went to, I don't know if it was 2 or 3 weeks, whatever, of supposed jungle and combat training, more combat training of, like you say, there wasn't any jungle around, so we did a whole lot of squad rushes and whatnot.
Yeah,
in the tumbleweed.
I'm up, they see me, I'm down, all over camp.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then say we got on the USNS General Gordon, headed for Vietnam, lasted a month. We stopped in Okinawa overnight we got rid of one fella that was not of age yet.
Oh, he was too young?
Yeah, he was only 17.
How did that come to light? How'd they figure that out?
I don't know how they figured it out, but the powers that be became aware that there was one troop or one Marine that was not of age, and we dumped him in Okinawa. And we went on, and I don't remember exactly what day we got to Da Nang, but we unloaded in Da Nang.
Can you remember when that first step out onto the?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Take me through that.
Yeah, that was it. Well, it got hot. That was your first became aware of where you were. It was just hot and muggy. It was like walking in bath water, hot water. And we got on the cattle cars and rode through Da Nang to the airport in Da Nang and spent the night sleeping on the floor. And then the next morning they assigned us where we were going, whether we were going to go to Phu Bai, Chu Lai, Dung Ha, and everybody got their assignments and went to their respective stations in the airport, and then got on. At that time, it was a C-130 or C-123. I got on and flew to Phu Bai. And when we got to Phu Bai, we unloaded as they were throwing prisoners onto the plane.
Really?
Yeah. When we got off and they were throwing prisoners onto the plane and to take them back to Da Nang, I guess.
Well, what was the what was the reception like, right? Like when you get to Phu Bai and you're passing, like, do you remember what was? There's at a certain point, I think, for all of us where the levity hits or the gravity of the situation. It's almost sensory overload, right? Because you're in a new environment, a new country. We talk about the sights, the smells, and now you're passing prisoners. Like you've been in country for what, a day, two?
A day.
Yeah, a day.
Yeah, because I say the first day, I can't even remember what. Oh, I think it was mid-afternoon when we unloaded off of the ship. and got on the cattle cars, and that was just a matter of down the gangplank, and the cattle cars were waiting, and you got yelled at to get on the cattle cars, and you drove through Da Nang to the airport, got off and went into the big metal building terminal, and they told us we wouldn't be flying out today.
Mm-hmm.
It would be in tomorrow, and so we found a place to crash on the floor, and that's where we stayed. But yeah, we were seeing guys that had been there and were rotating back, going through, and here we were in nice clean utilities and whatnot, and they were coming back for the most part pretty dirty.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any interactions with? No.
No.
And why do you had to have an urge, right? You're like, it's almost like looking, into the future, right? You had to have a million questions.
Yeah, but it wasn't like they were walking through a crowd of us, or we weren't in real close proximity, so it wasn't a place or a situation where they were willing to stop and talk to us.
I was going to say probably fairly unapproachable.
Yeah, and
not in the mood.
Right, and I'm sure to them we were cherries, and they just didn't pay any attention to us.
Mm-hmm.
We were the FNGs.
Yeah, that's right.
Better terminology.
Well, what is that first day like in Fubai? Like you go through the gate, right? I'm assuming there was,
Fubai was when I went there, it was FLSU 2, Force Logistics Support Unit 2. Floozy Deuce, we called it,
mm-hmm.
or Floozy 2. And it was small, very small. It amounted to an airstrip and a supply area, and then tents, canvas tents, is where we lived and slept. And it was small. There was, I would have to guess, probably no more than 100, 150 guys.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And
that's very small.
It was small. And where we were, you had the airfield in that area, and the supply and engineers area was together but separate. There was a pretty large field between the airstrip and our sleeping quarters and where we worked. And then there was another large, I'd call it like a pasture, between our compound and the Thai mercenary compound, and the Arvin compound would be to the north of us.
And Arvin is?
Army of Republic of Vietnam.
Right.
Then across Highway 1 was division headquarters, and at that time it was 5th Marines were across the street, across the road. But and they, that was a regiment.
Mm-hmm.
So they had, that was a pretty big area, and just beyond them and to the north was the ammo dump.
And was it so only 150? That's very, very small. It seems to be very, very small. Did you over your, because you ended up spending how many tours?
3.
3, right? So over that time frame.
It grew. It grew exponentially.
Yeah.
It was thousands by the time I left.
Mm-hmm. At what point did it become real?
In what respect?
I guess
it was real because it was real hot.
Yeah.
and it was real hot and real humid. And I got assigned to a utilities platoon as a water supplyman. My biggest job was to run, at that time, my biggest job was to run a field shower unit and figure out how to provide water to the mess hall. And I did that with I had a 3,000 gallon rubber water tank that the Navy, the Seabees kept full. And I would run the shower unit every morning and every night, and I would make sure that I had to set up wing tanks, old wing tanks that had been cleaned out for running water for the mess hall.
So you were everybody's friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could get.
That's an important job.
I could always get mid-rats because the cooks, of course, would come after dark to get their showers, and so I was in good with most everybody. It used to, I built a big tower to put the 3,000 gallon rubberized tank up on top. I remember doing that with the help of the Seabees, so we had water pressure and I didn't have to run pumps. And that worked out well, except that shortly after I got it erected and filled up with water, I noticed at night that there were people up in it swimming. And
oh, no shit.
yeah, well, they would go up and take their rubber ladies and float around there and I guess try to sleep up there in the cool. But of course, that didn't last very long. Nobody wanted to drink water that was had soap bubbles in it.
Yeah. And so how long? That's your first. Many months?
That was my first job. And I was in utilities there for I'd say 6 or 7, maybe even 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
But once the water situation and drainage situation was squared away, I had a lot of free time in my hands, and I began working with electricians because we got in big diesel generators, and they had built hardback tents. They called them. It was a plywood and 2x4 frame on the floor, and a 2x4 frame, just the framework with a canvas tent, a GP tent, a 10-man tent over the top. And we used those for a while, and eventually those got changed out to screen sides and metal roofs after a year and a half, maybe. But it was you always had something to do, whether it was, that's where I learned how to climb poles and work with electricity. I learned how to operate heavy equipment, bulldozers and cranes, And there was always work to do when you were in utilities.
And take me through, and I know this is going to kind of an elementary question, right? Like, what was the strategic purpose for Fubai as a base,
It was
as a
a
whole?
supply depot. It was Force Logistics. It started out as Force Logistics Support Group, or as Force Logistics FLSU 2, Force Logistics Support Unit 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then we became Force Logistics Group 1, and eventually it became FLC, just Force Logistics Command.
Mm-hmm.
So Fubai was a logistics unit that supported a large portion of I-Corps,
Okay.
the northernmost corps. So our responsibility probably went from Hai Vong Pass, which was about halfway to Da Nang, north to Quang Tri.
Okay.
And then in Quang Tri there was another. Well, when I first got there, FLSU 1 was in Dang Ha, and its area operation would have been from the DMZ down to Quang Tri, and we went up as far as Quang Tri.
And so there had to be combat operations being, like, what were the Thai mercenaries? What was their function there? You had mentioned that there was
Thai, the Thai. It was a Thai mercenary group, and the Arvin boot camp was next door to us. I never had any close contact with the Thai mercenaries, not like we did with the Arvin and the Arvin boot camp. We were never actively engaged or supported them.
Was that by choice or by directive or just due to proximity?
No, they were there just proximity.
Mm-hmm.
That was where the boot camp was for the I-Corps Arvins.
Mm-hmm.
And why the Thai mercenary, I suppose they were there just because it was within the compound and a place for them to stage and live. They eventually, the Thai Marines were someplace on our compound. This is after it grew to a significant size compound, because there were Thai Marines that operated in our province.
Are you taking small arms fire, mortars, artillery, anything? Was it pretty quiet at that time?
It was quiet. We had to spend 1 week a month on berm, what we called berm duty, where you were in the bunkers that surrounded our base.
Mm-hmm.
And you spent 1 week a month out there, and you got to come in every third day to get a shower and a hot meal.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we must have spent more than just a week. But you got to come in off of the berm every third day to get a hot meal and shower. And you had some probing on base. You had mortars and rockets.
Mm-hmm.
Was a normal every day or every evening thing every night. It didn't happen every night. It could happen anytime, and it wasn't something that you didn't expect.
Do you remember what it was like the first time you experienced that?
Yeah. Because it was probably.
It's a significant personal event for sure.
Well, yeah, because you could be mortared, and the first time I was there, when we were hit, it wasn't hitting, the incoming wasn't into our area. It was coming into, I think it was still 5th Marines across the road. It was hitting over there, but it didn't come into ours. But the minute you could hear them come out of the tubes, and even in after you were there for a while, even in the dead of sleep, you could hear them come out of the tubes, and you immediately got up, and we had bunkers set up at each end of the tent. So you went out, bailed in a bunker, and waited for the all clear, and then went back in and got in your cot and went back to sleep.
Yeah, or at least tried to, right? Yeah. Yeah.
And that didn't change any over the 2.5 years that I was there. It was just different kind of bunkers you got into. I mean, we started out with sandbag bunkers on top of the ground, open tops, and at some point in time they decided it was a good idea to have W bunkers between each tent, open at both ends, with a covered up top, and of course being a supply unit, you had all kinds of building materials, so we lined them with plywood, and it was almost like a motel.
I was going to say the nicest bunkers on base.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It was, that didn't last long, because as soon as the monsoon came, they filled up with water. And you would have had to have a snorkel to get in them. So we had to fill them in, and we built W bunkers on top of the ground and covered the tops with sandbags. But, yeah, there was always something to do, as far as work. You had very, very few really slack days. It wasn't like you got the weekend off.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, I
Everybody
understand.
had some kind of duty.
Well, talk me through your transition from the utilities to, because at some point you started working for S5,
Yep.
which back then was...
I got acquainted with S5. They came to me, or came to my unit commander, was a W04 at the time, and asked if they could use me to build, because I had done concrete work, like for the officers area and whatnot. I built wash racks and did different kind of concrete jobs. They came to me and they wanted to take me out and put concrete well caps on the village wells at villages in our AO. And they thought that would be a good idea. Keep all the leaves and nasty shit out of the wells. And so I got attached temporarily to S5, and because they were in charge of the civic action program. And so I went out with them, and we built round concrete well caps, and Lieutenant Ool, who was in charge of S5, he had gotten a hold of some like pitcher pumps, hand pumps, and we built the caps and mounted them in the center of the well cap so that they could pump water, fill their buckets or whatever. And So we started doing that, and every time we would go back to that village or to one of the villages that we had put that cap on, the cap would be pushed off of it, or partially off of it. And so we would push it back on and ask, of course, why do you keep pushing this off? And they said, well, we don't want to take a bath in cold water.
Oh, no kidding.
And the sun won't shine down in the well and make it warm. And then we discovered that they had a knack of the rope tied onto the bucket that they dipped their water with. They could drop it and flip it, and it would fill immediately and go to the bottom, and they'd pull up if they wanted cold water. If they didn't, they would flip it and jerk it right out, and they'd have warm water to bathe with. And we said, makes sense to us.
Well, what was that first interaction like with, with those villagers, right? I mean, you were working through a translator, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, at that time.
And so, like hearts and minds, kind of rapport building, relationship building.
Yeah, we had what was his name? Alzheimer's attack. We had an interpreter that was always with the lieutenant.
Mm-hmm.
And he would, of course, do all the translating for the lieutenant and for us when we were there. But a couple of us got pretty good at speaking and understanding the Vietnamese. And over time, I picked up Vietnamese pretty fluently.
Mm-hmm.
But
and you had told me a story once. I think it was you had built them outhouses or one of the
we built concrete outhouses for them, and it was kind of the same situation. We didn't ask them. We built the outhouses for them, and it was a 2-holer concrete block and all masonry, and had a place under the hole, of course, for your half a 55-gallon drum or whatever, so that they could catch the waste and then take it to the rice paddy, because that's normally they would just go out to they'd go right to the bathroom in the paddy. And we built it. Well, when we came back, it had tools on one side and bags of rice on the other side, and we tried to explain to them that wasn't where you wanted to keep your rice and your tools. That was where you went to the bathroom. And they politely said, well, why in the hell would we want to store or go to the bathroom in that thing and have to carry it out to the field when we've been, for thousands of years, we've been shitting out there in the field.
Right.
We don't like carrying manure around. And then, of course, it would have all been much, much simpler had we just asked for information instead of just presuming that this is what you need.
And I think that's what's super interesting, right, is because we show up and we think we have the way.
Yeah.
A better way.
This way is better.
Yeah, and they want nothing to do with it, right? They didn't want anything, right? Is that fair?
Yeah, that's very fair, because they've been doing it for thousands of years this way, and why in the hell would we want to change?
Did you get the sense, was the feeling, was it more of like tolerance, or were they excited to have you guys around, or?
They liked having us around for protection.
Okay.
If we were around, then the VC didn't bother them as much. They didn't steal their rice. They didn't come in and kidnap their young men and whatnot. And that was, they tolerated us. They liked having us around.
Mm-hmm.
Were we the smart ones? No.
What do you mean by that?
Well, just those two examples just prove that we were trying to make things better for them when we were making it worse. You know, I would, after thinking about it, I wouldn't want to carry the shit out to the field either.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so it was all, I guess we were learning as we went along.
How old are you at this point? 18, 19?
18, yeah, 19.
That had to be surreal, that first kind of interaction, right? Because had you been out of the continental United States prior to that?
Yeah, just to Canada.
To Canada?
Across the border in Canada, that's all.
Yeah, so you're on a different planet right now. Right.
It's not Ogle County anymore.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But it wasn't hard. That part of my tour wasn't really hard. It was, you know, say a big learning experience.
What's one of the biggest things you took away from that portion?
Research before you act, get an idea of what it's really going to happen, what's going to be, you know, at the end of the project, what's going to be the real advantage to having it the way you want to build it, or you want them to adopt something like an outhouse or covering up, keeping the leaves out of their well.
Was there any project or anything that you guys implemented that they did take to, that they enjoyed, or kind of, you know, did any of you guys rub off on them, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I suppose they, well, it wasn't our idea. I guess it really wasn't our idea, other than, you know, when we put metal roofs on, replaced our canvas tents with metal roofs. Somebody got the bright idea. A Vietnamese guy got the bright idea of, they came to our clubhouse and collected all the aluminum cans, all the beer cans. They weren't all aluminum then, and split them open, flattened them out, and roofed their house.
Yeah, for sure, right?
Yeah. They not only roofed their house, they sided their house with it.
I've seen it, right? They did the same thing in the Philippines. We were jumping in the Philippines, and it all beer cans.
Yeah.
They'd roof, side, everything, right?
Yeah, and they did, when I first got there, and it wasn't like something, you know, a huge change came over the place. With water sanitation and stuff. They started covering before, when I first got there, they had open canisters, big concrete bowls outside of each house that had, you know, that's where they kept their water. And they were open to the air, and they started covering those to keep the contamination out of them. I'm not saying it was nationwide, but some of the villages did that.
So you had always told me, or I always got the impression that you enjoyed the Vietnamese culture. You enjoyed the people.
I did like working with the people, especially after I learned to speak Vietnamese.
And obviously that had to be invaluable, right? That kind of leads us into the next portions of your.
Well, that's doing the well caps and the outhouses got me kind of attached or with the S5 group, and they kind of, for lack of a better word, adopted me until the lieutenant finally went to our battalion commander and got me transferred to S5. And S5 didn't do just civic action programs. They were in charge of the APT, which is Armed Propaganda Unit, and the Chuhoy program, which was the Open Arms program. According to that was established by MACV, the Military Assistance Command, and that was the Chuhoy program. The Army called it their Kit Carson program, and it was XVC or XNVA that had Chuhoyed or come in had surrendered and volunteered to work with our military as scouts and interpreters, if possible, and stuff. And that's how I got involved with that.
What do you think their, and again, this is probably a fairly elementary question, but what was their main motivation? Were they just looking for the paycheck? Were they truly anti-communists? You know, like why? What do you think the motivation to kind of switch sides and work with the Americans and the Marine Corps was? If you had
a lot of them, quite a number of them were probably forced into working with the VC. Not, and they may have been forced because we did the man in charge of our Tuatin province Chuhoy program was an ex-NVA, Mr. Quinn, and not whether maybe he was forced to work with the NVA in North Vietnam. I don't know, but was a nice fella, nice guy. But he was in charge of all the Chuhoy program, and they were stationed in the Citadel at Way City.
What? Just for the audience sake, what's the difference between NVA and VC?
Viet Cong are guerrillas, are South Vietnamese citizens that are working for the communists. An NVA is the North Vietnamese Army personnel.
So black pajamas and uniformed, right? That's how everybody kind of remembers it, right? The VCs in the black pajamas and the NVAs in the communist uniforms.
Towards the end of my tour, or the end of my third tour, or shortly before I came home, we were running into Viet Cong that had some forms of uniforms.
Really?
And helmets,
Okay.
Yeah, but most when you think about an NV or a VC, it was a conical hat and black pajamas. Yeah.
What was what was that like? I mean, I've worked what we would say Indige. I've worked with Indige, and you develop a relationship, almost instantaneously if there is that level of trust, right? What is that fair to say, or did did they take? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, the experience I had with the Hoi Chans, most of them had voluntarily left the VC and came back through the Chuhoy program, came back and offered to fight with American units. And for whatever reason, some of them, a lot of them, anytime that we had somebody Chuhoy to us, we did our best to get back to their village and remove their families because the Viet Cong or the NVA were going to come in and probably kill them.
For sure, right,
You know,
100%.
If their husband, son, whatever, Chuhoyed and left them, they were going to come back and destroy their family and property.
Yeah, so not a light undertaking on their part at all.
No.
You know, what would you do with the family? Like, did they have a compound within the compound?
Yeah, we had a Chuhoy village established right outside of our Fubai compound, of what, you know, we provided them with a lot of the building material and stuff, and also provided them with some of the protection. I mean, they had their own. Of course, they were armed, working with us. They didn't. We didn't give them a Thompson or a grease gun or an M1 carbine or anything when we went out on operations with them. They most of the time had their own. If they didn't have a weapon, we would give them one. But they took them home. Just, I mean, you know, they're living in a combat zone.
What was the reception like from other Marines or other Army personnel? Because it was a joint base, right? There was Army. No, it was just Marines.
Yeah.
What was their? Were they welcomed? Were they standoffish? Were there people like, hey?
If I on a number of occasions, both Marine and Army units, I had my guys captured. You know, we set up an NDA, and they'd go down to the stream and clean up. Well, they'd strip down, be in washing, whatever, and the next thing you know, they're coming back with their hands in the air, and they've been captured. and I'd have to say, well, you know, just a damn minute, those guys belong to me.
Was there any way to identify them?
No, not until I started to have them wearing blue. I gave them blue handkerchief scarves that they wore, and as long as they had that on, they didn't. The Army guys or the Marines didn't bother them. They would often ask, "What the hell are you doing working with these gooks?" You know, and I would have to. Most of the time, I just responded to them that I trusted them more than I trust you, because that guy over there wearing that blue handkerchief protects my ass, because if he loses me, he's shut up, you know, he's got no protection at all. And so they understood that, a lot of them.
What would be a typical operation where you, and like, how are you formed up? Is it a squad? Is it a platoon size element?
No, 9 times out of 10, it would be 1 or 2 Marines. We had 8 people that operated out of S5, and it would be 1 or 2 Marines. And we would go into Way City or into the Chuhoy compound, and if we were going to have a operation in Dixon, Illinois, we would go and try to find at least one person that had lived in Dixon or Lee County, say.
Yeah, he had area familiarization.
Right.
He knew the terrain.
The people. He knew the terrain. He knew what was going on, and we would try, if possible, to get, you know, as many. If we were going to have a 4-man team, we'd try to get as many people as possible that were familiar with the area, and then sometimes it'd be 1 Marine and just 2 XVC. Well, depended.
You had said that you were farmed out to the 101st
Yep, I worked with the 101st Airborne, 1st of the 501st, and 1st of the 502nd, and 5th Marines, 3rd Marines, 1st Arvin Division, the 53rd Battalion of the 1st Arvin Division. Different. It just depends on who was operating in our area. Like Houston 2, Operation Houston 2 was a 5th Marines operation. Who was ever operating in Tuatin Province, if they wanted Chuhoy scouts, then they would contact G5 at battalion level, and then it would filter down to us, and we would pick out our guys and operate with them.
And were they simply as like I'm trying to, paint the picture where the Chuhoys were operating as like point in the patrol, or just area?
Sometimes.
Are they handling they're interacting with the villagers in,
Right. They would sometimes we would end up being on point. A lot of times when we would set up a night defensive position, they would, because we were attached to headquarters, no matter whoever we operated with, we were right around and close to the headquarters, and they would ask me to ask the Hoychans, okay, if we get hit tonight, where are they going to, where do you think they'll come from, and they would help in that position. Sometimes we'd get asked to set up a night listening post. We did shit like that,
And how long are you going out for at a time? We talking days?
Depends. It could be 1-2 days, could be a week. Most of the time we were never attached to anybody. I think the longest time we got attached to anybody was the 101st Airborne. We were with them for like 8 days one time. And it just depended. Depended on what the platoon commander, battalion commander, it was all up to them.
Sure.
And one time we were working with the 101st Airborne, and we worked for 3 different companies in 3 days. They'd send you wherever they wanted to send you, and if they wanted to send you home, they'd tell you, get on that chopper, we're taking you home, And there were times that that the VC were civilians, and they were in charge of what they were going to do or would do. I remember one situation where Lieutenant Ohl said that the 101st wanted a team to go into the Ashaw, and when we went to get the team, they said, no.
We're not going.
We're not going out. We're not going there, You guys are crazy.
Was there any sort of,
go.
they couldn't be forced, right? But at the same time, like, did any of them ever get booted out of Chuhoy for refusal?
No. They're civilians.
Yeah.
They were civilians, and they did what they wanted to do. If they wanted to go home, they'd tell you they wanted to go home, I never had that happen. I did have a situation happen one time with the Marine Corps that they wanted to set us up in a night listening post in a certain area, and I went and explained that to the Hoychans, and they said no. Seriously said no, because when I went back to the company commander, and I said, no, they're not going to do it. What do you mean they're not going to do it? And I said, well, so to tell you exactly what they said, fuck no. We're not going to go out there, you know. And they had their options. They didn't have to do it to say they were civilians, but, you know, I very seldom ever had that happen, but I did on a couple occasions.
And what's the operational tempo like, right? Like you had talked about when you were in utilities, and there was kind of always, you know, never really a slow day, always something to do, right?
Yeah.
And now, like, what is the operational tempo like now working with the Chuhoys?
Well,
are we going out every week? Is it every other?
Usually, if say I got sent out with a team and was out for 3 or 4 or 5 days and came back, I might not go back out for a week or so. You know, it just depended on. But at the same time, there were other teams operating.
Sure.
You know, say we had 8 guys. And so, in essence, we could have 8 teams out, but you say most of the time it was 2 Marines and however many Hoychans you had. So we were down to 4 operating teams, you know. But you could possibly have 8 out. We never did.
And are both the Marines on the teams are enlisted, or was there an officer present, or did it depend?
No, we were all enlisted. Although Ool would go out. Lieutenant Ool, he would go on operations. Did he have to? No. The other officer that I had was there, Jerry Rolfson. He didn't go to the field. Never.
Yeah, we've had extensive conversations on that.
Yeah.
Well, what would you say was your most memorable operation? Doesn't necessarily have to be good or bad, but
oh boy, I guess the operation that Ool and Frankie got shot and Den got killed. We were with 82nd Airborne, if I remember correctly. And got ambushed, and Den was one of the Hoychans that was with us. He got killed, and Frank got shot in the ass, and Lieutenant Ool got shot in the heel. That's probably the most memorable one. I had a lot of memories of it, and they definitely, that one was a bad one. There was a lot of good ones that we thought were funny as shit, you know.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know, but that one was not a good one.
How long? So yeah, Frank. How long did that put him out of the fight for?
Oh,
wasn't there some kind of joke he was the $1 million wound? You know,
well, he was the only guy, and he claimed to be the only guy in Fubai with 3 assholes. Just happened to be where he got shot. But he got sent to Da Nang and then was sent to Japan, and then he was gone almost, I'd say, way over a month. And because they kept hounding us. Lieutenant was only gone for a few days, and he came back limping. but he kept pushing us to gather Hernandez's stuff up and take it to supply and have it sent back to the States. And of course we drag our feet and no, Frankie will come back, you know, he'll be back somehow. And it finally came down to Lieutenant told Staff Sergeant Goodnow to take us. I think it was Johnson and I, or it might have been B.B. Blackburn, I can't remember, but they took us down to, you know, we went down to the Hooch and got his foot locker and shit that we didn't want to keep and divvy up ourselves of his stuff and put it all in the foot locker and sea bag and take it to supply and have it shipped out. And we did that. And it wasn't hardly, I can't remember, it was 3 or 4 days a week. And here come Frank.
Yeah, as soon as you got rid of his shit when he came back, right, of course.
Yeah, he came back.
And said, "Where's all my shit?"
Well, he came right to the office, and you know, God damn it, you know, what happened? You know, how come you know, what the hell happened? And he said, well, he went to Da Nang, he went to Japan, and from Japan they gave him orders to Great Lakes Naval Hospital, and he was supposed to go to Great Lakes Naval Hospital, and we said, well, then how the hell did you end up here? And he says, I just threw those fucking orders away.
Yeah.
And I told him I lost them and told him I had to go back to Da Nang, and he got to Da Nang and said, I got to go to Phubai, and he told him he lost his orders, blah, blah, and they flew him to, you know, he got a ride to Phubai, and he said, here I am.
That's nuts, right? Like, the fact that you could kind of, that was, and I don't even know
acceptable.
Because there's so much, you know, there's so much shit going on, and you know, the fact that you could get, you know, I guess get away with that is, you know what I mean? It's just, it's bananas. You know,
it's probably no different today, but I mean, he couldn't just get away with it. You know, the lieutenant said, I only have one choice. I got to take you to the battalion commander. And that's what he did the next day. He took him, you know, they had to go to the commander's office, and of course I didn't go with him, but, you know, the lieutenant said the battalion commander was Fulbird and said, how did this come about? And Frank explained it to him and said, I had to come back here. That's the only acceptable thing I could do, was come back here with my guys. And he said, well, if you want to stay that bad, I'll fix it.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so, you know, intriguing is that, you know, I mean, the Marine Corps is so regimented, and every order will be followed to a T. And say nothing about being late
until you break them.
Until you right.
Right.
But if you break them, like, that's almost the only acceptable.
What's better for the Corps?
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And so you broke a massive rule.
Oh, he did, sure did.
But because your reasons were virtuous and just, you know, we're gonna let this shit slide. But any other time, it'd have been a firing squad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
they could have sent him to the brig for sure.
Right.
For just, you know, not obeying orders. They for sure could have. But it was funny because he came in, he wanted to go right to the field. And you know, what the fuck you want to go right to the field? I got to get out of here before they find out where I am.
Yeah, right. I'm going to go hide in the field, basically.
Yeah.
Well, what was it like coming back to the States in between? Because you obviously had some R&R coming.
Yeah, I got to come home for my first extension. I got to come back for a month,
Mm.
and it was, you didn't, well, I shouldn't say, my best friend, Nicky, that went into the Marine Corps with me, he just happened to be home. And so I had somebody that I could relate to. But other than that, I didn't have Randy Hahn. I could, he was a close friend. I could, could talk to him. But
Well,
I didn't have anybody that, to me, they were all still school kids.
well, sure. Yeah, that's an immense amount of, years packed into, that's a lot of life experience packed into a short amount of time.
They
right?
had no idea.
Right. Well, how were the people? Inquisitive, standoffish, all of the above?
No, I can only remember we always went out to what was called 8 Mile Truck Stop, the one right north of town, and that was one of the last stops you made at night after hours and whatnot. And I went in, and two of my classmates were there having coffee, a guy and a gal that had dated and are married today, but they were sitting there, and I just walked in and was going to sit at the counter, and they said, "Well, Marv, where have you been? We haven't seen you in a long time. You must have been down south. You're all suntanned." And I said, "Yeah, I've been down south."
Oh, yeah? You didn't?
No, I didn't. If they didn't know where I'd been, that's just the way I felt. If you have no idea where I've been over this past year, you didn't miss me much.
Mm-hmm.
And I got no big reason to sit down and talk to you.
What was your level of understanding at 18, 19 years old when you were there, of why we were there in the first place? Right? Did you feel like you had a decent understanding, or were you just young enough to where I don't give a shit, I'm just looking for the adventure and the?
Well, yes and no. What you didn't think, or at least I didn't. I didn't think about it much. Most of us, I think, were just being good Marines. Do what you're told.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to question it, because it isn't going to do any good to question it. You're going to still have to do what you're told. But we did. I think most of the guys that I was closely associated with thought we were doing something good for the South Vietnamese people, because we were working with the South Vietnamese people, and I don't know of anybody on our team that didn't like the Vietnamese people and the culture. I thought the people were great. I thought the culture was great. I thought the 99% of the terrain is a beautiful, beautiful country till we bombed the hell out of it. And even so, it was still a beautiful country. Other than until you got climatized, that was probably the only detrimental part about the whole experience.
The heat is offensive.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, it's
yeah. Even coming back from R&R or special leave, when you walked off of that plane, it literally attacks you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I can. Yeah, I mean, I've never had boots on the ground over there, but
when it's
Okie's not too far away, and it's offensive.
It's not a lot different, but
yeah,
when you landed in the Da Nang, depending upon the day, of course, and the time of year, it was just hot.
Mm-hmm.
And then after you got climatized for it, we got pissed off because they took all of our we were issued a field jacket and leather gloves on your initial issue, and you took that with you. Well, they took them all away from us. We had to turn them all in because they sent them all up to Dagan and Quezon and gave them to those people. Took ours away, and we froze our ass off.
Well, what is it? Was there any point in time during your 2.5 years there where were you paying attention to how, like, the United States and, you know, the opinion of the war, right? When you think about, when people that, you know, obviously I wasn't there, there's kind of two time periods, you know, for the Vietnam War. In the beginning, when it was like, hey, this is the right thing, we're supposed to be doing this, you know, anti-communism, we need to stop the spread of communism, and then we have like the opinion from the states kind of changes, right?
Well, yeah, I went in 65 or 66 until November 68, and you had Hanoi Jane. I think we started hearing from her probably in 67 sometime. Maybe it was a little later than that, but I'd say 75% of the people that I knew there, if she'd have shown up some evening at the club, they'd have just shot her. You know, people. I didn't run into anybody that was outwardly would express their fondness for the hippy dippy whippy class people.
How'd that make you feel?
About them?
Yeah.
They were just uneducated. Well, I wouldn't say uneducated, ill-informed people that had no idea what we were doing. Now, straight-leg grunt that spent months at a time in the field might not have agreed with me, but from what I was doing, I thought we were doing the right thing. You know, I was working directly with the South Vietnamese people, and of course, you really never knew the guy that was cooking your food or sweeping up the chow hall could have been shooting at you that night, you know. But the guys that we were working with, I never questioned.
Sure.
After getting to know them, I never questioned them because I got to not only know them but know their family, and I never questioned them as to their honesty as far as how they felt, you know. And an awful lot of the average everyday Vietnamese male, be them young or old, you had no way of knowing.
Yeah.
You know, the guys that we worked with and depended on, I mean, I would have said, you know, like little Den, who was killed, unfortunately, when he went to the field, sometimes he'd go to the field with a .38 pistol and a pocket full of rounds. That's all he had. And
It's
it
nuts.
didn't,
It's nuts.
you know, if he's willing to go out and get shot at, I would have thought that that's almost suicide. You know, I want a little bit more firepower than a .38 pistol,
Yeah, for sure.
but didn't bother him. Hand pocket full of grenades and a .38 pistol, that's enough to go to war with.
Was that? I would assume that was very, very difficult. That was probably a very difficult aspect of leaving. You know, when you left for the final time.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that's a very tight bond and relationship. You know that unless you've been in that type of environment, as you know,
Yeah.
especially with your indigenous, forces, like, that's it's a very special bond, right?
Yeah, and and there's no way that I know of that I'd be able to make recontact with them. But our team, I'm still close with P.D. Smith, Frank, except he's passed away. Lieutenant Ool, we've stayed in contact for a lot of years. Since 1960. I've seen Frank. I had seen him because he lived in Illinois, but Ool and Smith. Well, I did. I have never. Yes, I did too. I ran into PD. We made contact in Florida when Susie and I went down to Florida on vacation one time, and you and I got to hang out with Lieutenant Ool.
Yeah, we sure did. That was awesome. Yeah, we should definitely do that again.
Yeah. He still carries on about how Jerry, his wife, enjoyed so much that we allowed her to join in with our our conversation. He still talks about how she just went nuts, thought that was the neatest thing since sliced bread, that she got to hang out with us and listen to us babble on.
Yeah. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was amazing. It was so good to finally meet him after hearing so many stories. And that was an honor. So when you come back for that last time, what were those first few months like? And not digging in a sense of like was there post-traumatic stress or what? I'm not trying to shine like a negative light on it. Like,
I don't think so.
Like what, it's a very, very rapid transition from one environment to the next, right?
Yeah.
Can you kind of unpack that a little bit?
Yeah. Initially, we got to take a break.
Yeah, you got to use the restroom?
Yep.
Okay. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. Feel better?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you got home, like I said, it had to be difficult, and just from a day-to-day, like such a rapid transition, right?
Yeah, it was. I mean, you were leaving a combat zone, and you were home in 4 or 5 days.
That's so fast.
Yeah,
That's so fast.
That's not as bad as going home on special leave or emergency leave, because you're leaving a combat zone then, and you're home the next day.
Yeah, that's right. And unless you've experienced something like that, I don't think it can be overstated, like the kind of the shock to the system.
Yeah.
right? Going from even if you had the most mundane, and this is the world according to me, right? Like I would like to think that even if you had the most mundane, non-dangerous, job or military, you could be licking envelopes for a living, right? But just that rapid change of environment, from what you basically had to rapidly, accept as your normal, your Vietnam normal, to back in the States, right? Like, once again, almost going from one planet to the next.
Right, night and day. Although, say, my experience wouldn't be the same as, say, an 0311 that was in a grunt outfit, because I was going to the field, and I might be in the field for, say, 3 or 4 days a week, maybe a little longer, and then I was going right back to our base inside the Phu complex, and you were going from a legitimate combat environment back to going to the chow hall 3 times a day and having a hot shower every night, and going to the office, sitting in the air conditioning,
right?
So I could have that transition happen 2 or 3 or 4 times a month.
Sure.
So maybe it didn't. I mean, I didn't have a hard time readjusting to, I won't say readjusting to civilian life, but I didn't think too much about, once I got home, thinking about being in a combat situation or worrying about whether I was going to get mortared at night.
Yeah, no, you had said that. I
do remember one instance where I was at the gas station and talking to a friend. Well, I don't know if I was talking to Nick. It doesn't matter. I was talking to a friend on the drive, and Jerry Wooden, the owner of the gas station, was fixing a tractor tire, and when that thing seated and boomed, I was on the cement. I was face down in the cement and thinking, what the fuck was that? But I didn't think I had a bad time or a hard time readjusting and getting used to civilian life again.
Yeah, you had said that to me once before. You, when I was young, and I guess to you, I am young still, right? Asking, questions.
Caught up yet.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to. That it was just that Vietnam was something that you had done. It's not, who I am.
Right.
And you had, kind of, I think the word you used was kind of turn the page on it. But it's always something.
It's always in the background. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't. Well, they say that's part of PTSD. I don't go more than a day or so that I don't think about something about Vietnam.
Yeah, and I think people need to understand that those aren't necessarily bad thoughts.
No.
It's just it's such a unique experience, right? That and whether you were there for 3 minutes and got wounded and got evacuated, or you spent 2.5, 3 years there, right? Like it's you
don't know what you're going to think about. I mean, the one thing might come to mind would be, you might think about wading through knee deep to thigh deep rice paddy or a stream or whatever, and the next thought that might come to mind was sitting around the hooch, drinking sick bay alcohol, and getting totally screwed up.
Yeah.
And getting blind drunk. But you know, that's I don't think of it as a bad thing. Those are just thoughts that come and go.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't imagine anybody doing and having a wide range of experiences at that age that you don't remember a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's ingrained in your head.
Mm-hmm.
And just part of the experience.
Yeah, it is just
doesn't go away.
Right. Yeah. It just that's it is part of the experience. Well, when you got back, were you attentive or paying attention to what was going on over there? Obviously, you were vested.
I almost, when my brother Jimmy Hippie, when he came home and said that he was going, I said, "No, you're not. I'm going to go down and re-enlist, and I'm going back, and I'll be there before you do, so you can't come." And he threatened me.
Did he really?
Yeah. Yeah, he said, "Well, if you do that, we're going to definitely fight." And I said, "Well, that's just the way I feel about it. You got no business there." And I do. You know, I know what it's all about. You don't know shit about, you know, what you're going to get into. But as it were, it didn't happen. He went.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
so you knew exactly where I was coming from then when I was so concerned about Dane.
yeah. Yeah. You know, and you have every right to be, you know, you have it would only be natural that you would have those feelings, especially after, you know, what happened to Justice.
Mm-hmm.
So
well,
that would be definitely nothing to feel bad about.
No, and I didn't at the time. It comes purely from, as you well know, because you experienced it. Like it's not that you doubt their capabilities or doubt, you know, their whatever. It's just like, I've been there and I don't want you to go.
Right.
The end. You know.
Yeah.
You know, and who am I to say that other than, you know, just kind of that older brother, you know, mentality where you want to protect them, you know, and it would probably was borderline insulting that they thought they needed protection. You know, they're of an 18 or 19-year-old, you know, man, just like we were when we raised our hands, so to speak, you know.
And I'm sure well, you probably felt the same way. I'm sure Dane felt. I think 99% of the people, especially in the Marine Corps, they just want to go do what they were trained to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
You know, that's my job.
It's not too much deeper than that, right?
No.
You know, and you have all the time after the fact to kind of mull it over, chew on it, unbox it, you know, were we supposed to be there? Were we you know, or were we not? All of those things, right? And that's why I was interested or asked you, like, as the situation kind of started to deteriorate, you know, what do you remember? I mean, I'm sure there was a ton of frustration. You know, did you ever try and go back other than?
Yeah. When I first got back, because see, Nicky Scholl and I went in together, and so we got out about the same time. We were never together there.
Co-located?
Only one time when he was stationed across the street with 5th Marines, and I was on the FLSGA side at that time, and we found out that we were both there, and we hooked up for one afternoon, and then his company moved out, and I never saw him again.
He was in the infantry? Was he in the infantry?
He was with an infantry unit. He was a cook with the infantry.
Okay, no shit. Yep.
Yep. And yeah, I never saw him again. But so he got out about the same time as I did, because we went in the same day. And we both decided that we wanted to go back to Vietnam. And God damn it, what's the USDA? What is the government organization that goes into war zones and
like the rebuilding USAID?
Yeah. We both wanted to do that and go back to Vietnam and go, work for that government agency, and maybe me more so than him because I could speak the language and whatnot, but I want to say we always wanted to do the same thing, but we didn't.
What stopped you?
We made the call and never got an answer from them. I don't know if they thought we were just back from Vietnam and nuts or what. But no, we never. I talked to a gal at in Washington, wherever their office is, main office or whatever, and she said, "Yeah, we'll be back in touch with you," but I never heard from her.
Huh.
And so consequently, it never transpired. And the next thing I knew, Ool had come back, and he called up, and that was just a few weeks after I got married, and he wanted to go to Saudi Arabia and set up milking installations because he said they think that milk is gold over there, and he says we can go over there, and he said you can set up the milking operation, and I got to get Frank to go with because he'll be my bodyguard, and that never I said, well, that's kind of a sad deal because I said I don't know how my new wife of a week is gonna go.
That ain't gonna fly, right? Yeah.
I said I don't think so. Oh, and of course he said, well, if you just got married, he said you're not going anywhere. So, and as it turned out, he didn't do it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember what it was like when we left for good?
When we left Vietnam?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that. I thought that sucked. But I thought an awful lot of the things that the government did in Vietnam sucked. Just the way they operated. I don't think that towards the end that they had any real care or concern about what happened in Vietnam.
Yeah.
No. They just, we're done with this, and people have made enough money, we're going home. We don't give a shit what happens to the people there.
Yeah, it's tough, right?
Yep.
It's tough to, something that you put that much time and effort in, and the relationships, and it's a missed opportunity to finish something that,
Yeah.
started with theoretical good intentions, right?
Yep.
And obviously I went through it personally. I can relate, when we pulled out of Afghanistan and the, tragic, undescribably fucked up manner that which we pulled out of there. What did we spend 2 decades doing? Why,
Right.
how could this be this way? And of course, all the memes are floating around where all the Vietnam vets are looking at the Afghan vets, being like, "First time, huh?" Get used to it.
Yeah, and I still wonder, what happened to Nam and Hung. Hung was our interpreter that was with Ul all the time. But geez, he was close to us all. I mean, we went to his wedding. We went to the wedding party. You were close to him. What happened to him?
What do you think best case scenario is? They escaped?
No. I guess I'm sure they were probably now the Hoi-Chans. They may have escaped. Hung, I got an idea he went to I just think or feel that he went to a re-education camp if he didn't get out of the country. He may have. Because his father was a professor at the University of Hawaii. And a pretty well-to-do family and stuff, so they may have escaped. But if they didn't escape, they went to a re-education camp, and it's hard telling whether they survived that or not.
Right. Yeah.
But I'd pay pretty big bucks to get a hold of any of them. Be able to see them again.
Yeah, sure. I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine. It's when it's when you live through something like that, when you experience something like that, it's difficult to not be able to reach back, right? To wonder, to wonder what happened to him, and obviously hope for the best, but not a good situation at all. So having all that experience, right? What was it like when myself and Dane and Danielle all went overseas? Do you think that gave you ample, tools to handle it, or do you think it made it worse, or what was it like having those experiences and knowing what myself or Dane, or at least having an idea of what was going to go down?
Yeah. Well, we had our first scare, well, I did anyway, was with you in the invasion, because I was project manager at the cement plant at the time, or for Prairie Materials, and it was just early cell phone era, and I was on my way home from the Dixon plant, and I got a call from Susie, and she was hysterical. And all I could think about was something happened to you, and I could not. She was hysterical. I kept dropping the call, and I'd have to call her back, and she just was hysterical. And that was all I could think about, was that something happened to you.
What was the problem? What was the real problem?
I finally heard the word dog.
Oh, yeah. Now I remember. I was like, I don't think I've heard this story.
And, I finally heard the word dog, and in my head, I said, well, dog. I said, that means it's not Dagan. And I was meeting her. I was supposed to meet her at the old cabin, and she had stopped at the house, and we had Henri #1, best dog we ever owned. Well, when she opened the door, she pulled in the garage, opened the door, and Devio was outside.
The Dalmatian,
The
you're
Dalmatian, and of course, Henri ran out to play with Devio, and in the time that she was inside getting stuff to go to the cabin, because it was for a weekend, and young Tom Patterson drove by in his truck. Devio is a outside dog. He chases the truck. Henri is chasing Devio and is not an outside dog and not road smart and gets run over.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, young Tommy picks the dog up and brings it back to the house, and she's hysterical.
Yeah.
and it lasted a month. About it. Then I thought I was going to have to put her to sleep. But yeah, but I thought it was you.
Yeah.
And Dane and Danielle, I never worried too much about Danielle because I knew she was in a supply job with, even though it was ordnance. And Dane, I just worried. You worry. You can't help yourself but worry.
Mm-hmm.
But having been through Justice's situation and whatnot, you just can't help but worry.
Yeah, and I don't even know what kind of answer I was looking for, right? Like, yeah, it's...
I didn't sit around and bite my fingernails, and I spent more time trying to console Susie and keep her from going off the deep end. And I think by the time the twins were deployed the first time, I wouldn't say she was used to it, but she was easier to console and, not as frantic.
Yeah, well, having 3 kids and having all of them, be over there for, multiple tours and,
Yeah.
she probably...
And it doesn't get any easier the second trip around either.
No, I'm sure not.
You know.
And I think about that often with, 2 out of the 3 of mine, even at a very young age, both of them seem to be very adamant about going.
Yeah.
And so I'm almost like trying to prepare myself for that, and there's probably no way to prepare, and the only thing I can hope to God is that they don't have to, I'm not going to stop them. I'm not going to try and talk them out of it. Nobody would have been able to talk me out of it.
No, I couldn't talk. Grandma Fran couldn't talk me out of it because,
what did Grandpa say?
nothing.
Really? When you told him that you were enlisted and he didn't say anything?
No.
Huh. Not good luck, not anything.
Oh yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
be careful.
yeah.
Good luck and be careful. Because he had 3 brothers
Mm-hmm.
that all went to World War II, and all 3 came back.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't. And he, it was always a big welcome home, glad you're home.
Mm-hmm.
When you got to go back,
Yeah.
and kind of thing. And Grandma, the third time, was it the third time I extended? Yeah, the third time I extended, I think it was about a week after I extended, I got a letter from Grandma, from Mom, that, and she said because she knew I was getting close to rotating, and she said, if you extend one more time, you might as well just stay there and be a citizen.
Yeah.
And I had to write her back and say, I got your letter a week late.
Yeah.
I already did it.
Yeah. That's amazing.
I don't know. You know, well, I'm sure she didn't make any difference whether it was the first time I extended or the third time I extended, whether she was not happy with it.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember your first conversation with Uncle Paul after you got back for I will say the last time?
No. I just, within the first few days of being home, I know I'd go visit him.
Yeah. It's kind of like it's going to happen two ways, right? There's either going to be a ton of conversation or just kind of an unspoken.
I'm back, you know, and I'm, of course, when I was home on special leave, it was I'm back and I'm going back. And then I didn't come home until I got out.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went down and saw him.
Well, what do you think your biggest takeaway from that experience was? Something that maybe that you use, you know, to this day or on a daily basis. What was one of the most pivotal things that you took away from that experience?
Jesus, I don't know.
I mean, was it just the experience in its totality?
Yeah, mostly it was something that I was glad that I did.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't give it up for a second. Would do it again if I wasn't 78. Is it something that everybody should experience? No, it's not. But for me, it was. I'd literally have to say I enjoyed more of it than I didn't.
I've always gotten that impression.
Yeah.
I've always gotten that impression that it was a positive. Over and when I think about my experiences, I think that's how I am.
Yeah.
You know, like, were there bad parts? 100%.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, there were bad parts, but overwhelmingly, I view it as a positive experience.
Yeah.
Right now, I think obviously a lot of that has to do with the fact that we were, you know, relatively unscathed. You know, you might,
Right.
Other than the, readjustment and, you know, the things that go along with, you know, those experiences, you know. But yeah, I would say I had an overwhelmingly, you know, positive outlook or positive experience. And I don't know if that's a conscious choice or I'm not sure. You know what I mean? I think it would be very, very easy to, you know, dwell on the parts that are bad. I never got the impression that you did that. And maybe that's why, maybe it was, you know, through you that I kind of had the same outlook once I came back. Right?
Possible. Maybe that's one thing I learned or took away from it, that's a positive to me anyway, is that I don't dwell on the negative part of it or on any negative things that happen. You know, I mean, I don't dwell on the fact that justice was a casualty. I don't dwell on the fact, you know, I kind of learn to accept things that you can't change, literally. I just don't dwell on bad aspects of life.
I think going through that experience, whether it's Iraq, Afghanistan, just conflict in general. I think that when you're put into those situations, it becomes so abundantly clear what you can and cannot control.
Yep.
And how much of it is well outside of what you can control. Like,
Yep.
I basically can control these very few things, and everything else after that is outside of my, right? And once you realize that, and once you're forced to experience that, and, kind of overlay that with the Spartan lifestyle, and Spartan lifestyle, like, uncomfortable conditions, right? Makes you appreciate, nobody appreciates a shower more than somebody that's been out in the field for 2 weeks and hasn't had one.
Yeah.
It's kind of where I'm going with this, right? And
well, and you also you learn to control your feelings, I think, a lot more, because there's a lot of things that we see that would have, without a doubt, sent a lot of people into screaming and bawling.
mm-hmm.
And I think that the kind of experience that we had teaches you that you can't control it, so there's no sense in losing your, you can't lose your shit.
Mm-hmm.
Something that's beyond your control, whether it's somebody getting killed, maimed, or whatever. It's just, like we used to say, sorry about that shit.
Mm.
It's not that you don't feel bad, but nothing you can do about it now. You're sorry it happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which could obviously come off very, callous, but
Right,
it's
right.
it's really not. Like, it sounds callous, but it is. It's that acceptance of the fact that there's nothing that can be done about it, right?
Right.
What's done is done, and it's an invaluable experience. Unfortunately, sometimes at the cost of some,
Doesn't mean you can't shed a tear on occasion, but for the most part, there's nothing you can do about it. You do your job, and what happens, happens.
Mm-hmm. Well, how long after you got back for the last time, so to speak, if there is a particular point where you kind of felt more at home here than you did, how long did it take to kind of transition back into, I guess, the realization that I'm never going back there?
Never.
Yeah, right? Yeah, I
Never.
wondered.
Never.
Yeah.
I would say that maybe that's part of the PTSD. Yeah, no, I don't know how you ever go through that. And like I said, yeah, I think about it. If I don't think about it every day, I think about it every other day. That never leaves you.
Do you ever get I get this feeling all the time where if it weren't for the pictures and the memorabilia or the scars, it almost like it wasn't even real. You know what I mean? Like, and I know it was, and I know I was there. I know I was in those places, right?
Yeah.
Like, I've got the pic.
That's what. Yeah, for sure. I mean, you don't need pictures.
Yeah.
I don't need pictures. I visualize it
Mm-hmm.
every day. I can visualize it.
And do you ever get the sense where it seems like in one thought it seems like yesterday, and in another thought it seams like 1,000 years ago, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that goes with everyday thinking.
Yeah.
But I always used to I remember going to the movie Platoon with Al Vossen.
Mm-hmm.
And in the very initial parts of the movie, I told we were sitting there, you know, and of course it's perfectly quiet or just the sound of and I said to Al, Al, I can smell it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I said, I can smell it. And what? I said, I can fucking smell it. And he was flabbergasted, you know.
Sure.
He said, you got to be shitting me. I said, no, I can smell it. And I could.
Yeah, no, I can relate. Yeah, I can relate 100%. It's and I think that once again that kind of goes back to when I asked the question, like the sensory overload of being in such a different or foreign place, you know, overlaid with the, you know, the fear because there's imminent danger, right? So you're young, your brain isn't even fully developed yet because you're 19 years old. And so they just imprint on you, right? In a good way and in a bad way, I think is fair to say, right? So it's almost like something tangible you can touch because you were so wide open in all forms of the sense or all forms of the words, right? Taking it all in. So that's why I always ask, like, everyone remembers kind of that first moment, whether it's the ramp dropping on a C-130 or you're stepping off the helicopter or getting off the truck or whatever it is, right? Like that initial kind of taking in this new environment is a significant event, right?
Yeah.
You know?
I remember it would have been in '68. It was late in my tour, but I tell you when it was. It was during the siege of Quezon, and I went to breakfast, and I tasted my eggs, and I spit them out because I could taste the smell.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I told the guys at the table, I said they got dead bodies in with our eggs. Oh, you're fucking crazy. I said, I'm not crazy. And I said, I'll prove it to you. And so we went down to the reefer banks and went door to door, and we found the eggs, and on one side stacked up with eggs, on the other side stacked up with body bags.
Fuck yeah.
And I said, I could taste it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, if you smell it, you'll never forget it.
Yeah, that's a fact. Yeah, it's definitely a smell you don't ever forget.
Yep, and it gets into everything.
Yeah, I had made this trip down to a police compound, training compound in Florida. And to prove your point, I was working with a team leader. He was kind of giving me the lay of the land because I was going to conduct some training for him down there. And it was the Pasco County Sheriff's compound, right? Phenomenal compound, very high budget. I was super impressed, right? But it didn't take more than a minute before I could smell it. And I could smell the dead bodies, you know? And of course, being in Florida, you know, or being on this police compound, you know.
Training dogs.
Well, what they did was, you know, and the guy that I was running around with, I won't say his name, but he was kind of waiting for me, like, how long is it going to take Hoot to smell it? And so he almost read it on my face when it hit me. And of course, I looked at him, you know, and quit. I'm like, where are the corpses at? And what they had was they had cadavers, you know, in this fenced, you know, swampy marsh. And they were studying, you know, through drones how the cadavers, you know, decomposed, right? Really? Yeah, but he kind of giggled, you know, not that it's a funny, you know, we find humor in the strangest things, right? He goes, I was wondering how long it was going to take you to smell that. He goes, didn't take you very long. I said, yeah.
Not once you knew what it was.
Yeah, not once you know what it is, right?
Yeah, I could taste it in the eggs.
I bet. Yeah, because it's right. It kind of seeps, you know. It
gets into everything.
It's hard to wash off, for sure. Well, how do you wrap this up?
I don't know. I guess I got to say, you never do wrap it up because it's always there.
Yeah.
For me, you can just turn this thing off. but I'm sure you're in the same situation. You're never gonna forget the experiences you had.
Yeah, and I am grateful for them.
Yeah.
The good ones and the bad ones.
Yeah, because I had a lot of, like I say, I had a lot of good times, a lot of never laughed so hard in my whole frickin' life experiences, even during an active combat role. You know, I mean, I'll remember forever when, God damn it, I'm saying that now, I can't even remember his name. Donovan thought he shot the head of his pecker off. And I mean, we're in the middle of a goddamn firefight and we're laughing our ass off. He was screaming his off till we got his pants. Got his pants down, but he didn't.
Yeah.
Just got a blood blister on the end.
Just a near miss.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's a
From
night.
a 45.
Oh my God.
Laying behind a dry patty dike, you know, and laying down, changed magazines and jacked one in, and
He should have went and bought a lottery ticket immediately.
no shit,
Yeah.
that hole in and out of his pant leg.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and he's screaming.
Do you blame him?
Huh?
I said, do you blame him?
Frank and I were laughing our ass off after we got his pants down.
Made sure it wasn't. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you coming in here and
Well, sorry it took so long. I just
got shit to do.
Well, no,
Yeah.
not much got shit to do. Just sometimes it's not hard. It's not hard to relive it or hard to, but sometimes it's hard to talk about till you get going.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why it's not lost on me, and why I'm saying thank you. You know, I completely understand. There's been more than a few that have said no. You know, I'm not comfortable with it, and I completely understand that. You know, I think it's.
I didn't know how comfortable I'd be at it.
Sure.
You know.
Sure. I think it's a very special bond between us, right? Having the, you know, kind of similar experiences.
Well, there's only certain, I don't know, that's just the way I feel about it. There's only certain people that I know that understand what you're talking about and can rationalize and realize, you know, what you're trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we could have this conversation with some people and they wouldn't have the foggiest idea what you're talking about. But
yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, it's an important part of our family history. It's a major factor in the closeness of our relationship. And I just appreciate you coming on and answering my questions. You've never been shy about answering them. You were always very open, and so I thank you. I appreciate it, and we'll wrap it up and go get some lunch.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'm all for that.
All right, all right. Stay mobile.
It's just noon.
Stay mobile, everybody. Yeah, we got time.
Yeah.
All right. See you guys. Thanks.